Oh, Jeannie.
We're rolling without a mic.
I'm going to use my soft voice.
And I'm going to try to use my really loud voice, which does not become me.
And the soft voice doesn't become me.
Look at where we are. Where are we?
We're in a different place.
We are.
We're kind of in a place that's familiar to me.
I know, because it's your place.
Well, it's not my place.
No, it's a place where you serve.
It is a place where I serve. They called me to be here. This is a part of the sanctuary multi-use space. It's really the only space we have in this church.
Really? You got other rooms a wee bit, but this is where
Well,
everything happens. This is where the
other
magic
rooms are
happens.
small. They can only hold like 10 people, 15 at the most. So this is the action, the heart of the building. And yeah. So we came here to this table.
To the table.
I wanted to talk about the table.
Cool table.
It is a super cool table.
It's a big slice of tree.
It is a big slice of tree, and if you look from here down, you can see the branches of the tree going out. And it is a tree from New Jersey.
Is it?
Yes. We have a New Jersey tree.
And we're in New Jersey. Was it local to here in New Jersey or somewhere else?
The top is.
Right.
This top is. And we wanted something beautiful and unique because we're kind of in a plain building. And this table, a lot of things happen around it. First of all, it's the communion table,
right.
The Lord's Supper, the
and
sacrament.
Some people will refer to it as an altar.
No.
But it's not an altar.
Not in our tradition.
Not in our tradition. No, in our tradition it's a table. And what do you do at a table?
At a table you sit like we're sitting. You eat.
You make stuff.
You create.
Yeah.
You pray.
Yeah.
You tell stories.
That's right.
A lot of tables though don't get used that fully in churches,
but
this one does.
Yeah, cool.
Twice a month, a group of people who are called Heart and Soul, they come and sit. Heart and soul. I don't know any of the words, but we know the two.
Yeah. Okay, a little
So
song.
they sit around the table and
the Heart and Soul group.
Yeah, they read books and they talk about spiritual journeys and all the things in their
What
life.
a great opportunity, because some people, they spend all of their time in a sanctuary out sort of in the congregation area, and they don't really.
What I tell that group all
That's changing though. I think time is changing that style that we worship in.
What I tell that group is not to break their confidentiality, but the emotion and the spirit and the depth of their conversations that happen around this table mingle and stay and hover around this table. I really believe that.
That's beautiful.
And then there are other times that children crawl under the table because it's a cool little spot. It's like a little cave down there. And they'll often be talking after worship or laying down or hiding.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, it's a cool table. It is a cool table. And this is the communion ware.
I don't even know if it's in the shot.
Huh? Yeah, this came from a potter. Well, I don't know where he's from. It was bought at Montreat, North Carolina.
Right. Was he a
and it's sort of
was
like,
he a Harry Potter?
I don't know. Hey, I think he had a lot of hair.
Get it?
Get it? A lot of hair.
And Harry Potter.
But it kind of looks like the veins of a tree, or like a bunch of trees.
Trees or people.
Yeah. So this is the table. And interestingly, Jeannie,
yes,
we've had a lot of conversation about tables in our particular corner of the church.
Yes, table.
Like who's welcome to come to this table?
I know, right? What's that about? And what's funny is that I was not, although I went to church as a kid and loved going to service on a Sunday, I wasn't really a churchy person, and my family wasn't churchy, so we didn't know like the Presbyterian rules and all that kind of stuff. And of course, as Quakers, sacraments are seen differently, so the sacred is all the time. right? So every meal is thinking about the
Is communion.
Communion, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not that there are no sacraments, really. It's that there is nothing held more sacred than just life itself, right?
So
But-
everything's a sacrament. Was that
Kind of,
true?
Yeah, kind
Wow.
of everything and nothing, or
Okay,
I don't know,
all right.
I like to think of it as everything. But I was in seminary when I realized that Reformed tradition technically said that a person had to be baptized before they could take communion. Now, when I was little, you did not take communion until after your confirmation. So you didn't take communion until you were 12 or 13. But then then that sort of changed in the late 70s, at least in
It did.
and then it was like, hey, this should really be open to anyone, and they would understand it at the place of their understanding. There shouldn't be some sort of.
But they were still baptized at
But
that
they were
point.
still baptized at that point. But I didn't even know that.
I didn't either.
I just figured anybody who felt moved could. So I came around that in my own mind when I became ordained, in explaining it as in God's time. There is no sort of, God's time is not our time. So if you feel moved, so basically, whether you're baptized in the past from a human standpoint or in the future, you're still baptized, which sounds like it's a loophole, but to me it's not, because if you feel called to share into this moment of accepting your oneness with God, then who are we to say what time constraint on what ceremony is on that? So I really didn't think it was a huge issue, but apparently
Ooh, it's a huge issue.
It is a huge issue.
I want to, before we go any further with that issue,
Yeah.
I remember being a child in the church, and we only had communion 4 times a year.
Right, yeah. That's-
So, if you missed one of those Sundays,
Yeah.
then you only saw communion maybe 3 or 2 or 1
Right.
time a year, or no.
None, yeah.
So it was kind of a rare day, but I always knew that it was
Super
happening.
high ritual.
And they had, in our tradition, we stack up trays with
Silver
tiny
trays,
little
glass.
glasses,
Yeah.
little cups, and a tray, another
stack
stack of
of
small
trays.
trays with little pieces of bread in it.
Wonder Bread.
Yeah, there's all kind of weird things
Yeah,
we've done in the
yeah,
past. We
yeah.
had these little pellets that looked like rabbit food.
Really?
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
I
like
remember
these 2
those.
tiny little square puffy pillows.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah. I
And
remember
so,
those. Yeah, puffy pillows.
So it was all very, very
Very formal.
solemn and
Oh, yes.
quiet and formal.
And
However,
the elders were men, and they wore gloves, white gloves.
ours didn't wear gloves, they wore suits.
Suits.
They always walked in like formation, like military.
And sharp corners. And
Came
sharp
there,
corners.
got
Yeah.
the trees,
Yeah.
there's the mouth. They never smiled. The
Yeah.
organ
It
went,
wasn't a joyous thing.
no, the organ went,
Yeah, as a kid, it was just like, what is going on?
However, here's what I heard. I had ears. My ears can hear.
Ken.
I heard what the pastor said. Come to the table. Okay, hey, yay.
Yeah, we'll come to the
Woohoo,
table.
coming to the table.
Yeah.
And then, I have a little prop to do
Okay.
this. And then, the men in their suits walking down the middle aisle like little military people with their trays would come and they'd pass the tray. And my dad was always on the end of the pew, then my mother, and then me. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, the tray's coming my way. I was invited to the table. And so the tray got closer and closer to the table, and then, hello, I'm down here sitting in the pew. The tray went over my head.
Yeah.
I couldn't see what was in it. If my hand went up to touch it, my mother popped me on the knee. Boom! I was fenced out of the table.
Fence.
It didn't feel good.
No.
I was mad.
Well, and it was funny how it was explained back in those days. Like, you can't understand this.
But I did
But
understand
the
something
thing
was
is, I
happening.
think that children understand
What do they understand?
atonement, oneness with God, God becoming God choosing, not because God needed to, but God choosing to become created. Creator choosing to become created for the benefit of creation. They can understand that huge concept in the same way that we can understand it, which is not very much.
Thank you. I didn't know where you were going because I was fixing to say, if you understood that as a child.
No, not very much. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
This is a kind of love inside your being. This is the kind of love that you recognize God works through me. And boy, I'm not perfect, but God loves me just as I am. And all of the things that God needs to do in this world, God does through the people that accept God's a part of me.
I knew as a young child what it meant to belong and not belong.
Oh, yeah.
So when the church said to me over and over and over, you belong, you're loved, you belong.
Except for
but
here.
You can't
Right.
do this. The table has a fence. And it didn't feel good. And I was part of the community. I was even baptized.
Yeah.
But I couldn't come to the table. Fenced out.
Because of the perception that there was something you needed to know or mature into or sign up for before you could come to the table, which is just an invitation of coming to the table, of being a part of this party or being a part of this meal or the part of this conversation. Now, what's weird is that we look back on those times when we were kids, before kids could take communion, and look back on those times when it was a little bit more formal and it was only 4 times a year. And even though there probably were female elders, I don't ever remember, at least in my early years, a female with the host, that it was only the males that walked around with her.
With
But
the
before
host?
that, yeah.
We didn't call it the host.
But before that, right? Before that, like 100 years before that, not even. It was like one person in the family was allowed to represent the family. And you had to basically pass a test. You'd be quizzed on the catechism, and you would pay for a token.
Yep.
And apparently if you have a token like in your little treasure box or up in your attic, it's worth a lot of money.
The church I served in Arkansas has an entire collection of communion tokens in the safe. It used to be down the hall in the pastor's study if you want to go get them. But they were from the days of 17th century where you had to have a token in order to come to the table, and that token proved that you had been active.
But also, I think for some people, one token was given per family, and it was understood that it would be the dad that would walk up and go up for it.
So they didn't get communion, but dad got it?
Yeah, on their behalf. Which is like, what? Like, where did that come in?
Yeah. So yeah, there's that, and that's all, in my understanding, something that the institution called church created for the need and the desire that people understand.
Yeah. That we all be of a right mind or something.
Right, and I care more that people feel included and loved and invited. I think that's the move where we did. So, we're almost at the 500th year anniversary,
Which is
where,
changes.
and I just talked about this last week in this space, that here we have the reformers, and they come and they introduce change to an institution that says, oh, we don't want to change.
Right.
And so the reformers...
And also the reformers held up a mirror to them. And
before they held up the mirror to themselves.
No, to the church. And said, these are the things that you're doing that are just not okay.
Right.
And they were like, we're not changing. But then they did. But still.
Some changed, but what happened in the Reformation is we began to record some of the things that we said were important.
Right.
And those things became called the essential tenets of the Reformed faith. And guess what we've been doing for 500 years?
What have we been doing?
Fencing.
Fencing.
We have looked at the 500 years. What pray tell, are the Reformed tenets, are the tenets
I'm trying to trick you.
of the Reformed faith, Jeannie. No. What are the tenets of the Reformed faith?
Oh.
You can't be legitimate unless you
right.
know
Unless you
the
know them.
tenets
And-
of the Reformed faith.
Right, and say them in a rote way that's...
And any church that can't tell you what the Reformed tenets are is not a legitimate church.
Right.
So we've been fencing and fighting for 500 years.
Yep. Yeah, it's silly.
So,
That's silly.
I'm kind of thankful that you and I are in a corner of the church that's kind of said,
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
yeah, well, we haven't done so well in the corner.
No.
So we came out into the middle of the
We
church
did. We're
and
in the
went,
middle of-
hello!
Yeah, nobody puts baby in the corner.
We're not staying in the corner. We're going to dance, and we're
are.
inviting everybody. Everybody's invited. No, you can't.
Yeah, we can.
And we
just
have.
did.
And guess what? That's the news.
Yeah.
The news is after 500 years of thinking one way, we have begun to change the language of this table.
Yeah.
And we invite all of those who want to encounter the goodness and the grace and the peace and the healing of God. Doesn't matter who you are. Come. And I've witnessed over and over again in my ministry that invitation and inclusion has brought more people to the table than fences.
The fence. And you know, it's so funny because I think those, well, it's not funny, but those that fear, those that are kind of about the fence, that are like, no, the fence is extremely important, that we know for sure what we're doing when we're inside this fence, they're totally missing the whole point of the gospel, which is love and forgiveness and hope. And if you perceive that you are going to first be judged and then be taught something that you need to answer back in a rote way and swear in some way that you agree with wholeheartedly, when it's not something you can define in such a way that you can say, I know for sure this will happen to me when I die, or if I do this, then this will happen. It's not what it was ever intended to be.
I just want to be loved.
Me too. Yeah, I just want to be loved, and you know, I think...
There's a song, I couldn't get the song to start. Love. No, it's not appropriate.
Well, you know, I want to be loved, and I want to feel like I belong, and I'm not on the B list.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think that when you become comfortable and when you know that you're loved, you do want to have a sense of purpose. You want to feel that your life is about more than just, you know, working at the diner or driving for FedEx or being in an office. Do you know what I mean? That even though those are what you do, that's not what you're that's not your calling. Your calling is something higher, it's something bigger, it's something more divine. And all of that can only happen when you are loved for who you are, just right now. And you're then able to do that for other people. Because it's a two-way street, right? Yeah.
You know what I think we need to do?
Fence?
I think we need to take a commercial break and make sure that we're recording.
Okay.
But we're going to come back because there's some
Okay.
other things we're getting ready for in the next season of the church. And so let's just take
Okay, so we got the mic working again.
The mic was not cooperating with us.
It was not. It's much
But
better
we
with the
took
mic.
it out and wrestled it to the ground.
Wrestling. Doing
These
some
are, we're getting ready for the season of Pentecost.
wrestling.
The Pentecost story.
50 days.
50 days. 50 days. And I don't know a song.
When I think of fire, I think of danger and firefighting.
I know. So we talked to the kids about what Pentecost is, and we mentioned the fire, and I said, "Oh no, but the fire is not about burning or hurting."
It's like the bush that was on fire.
Yeah, it means that
doesn't consume.
we're so alive. It's just like it's for that. But no matter what, some of the children still wrote, "Danger, firefighters!" And here the firefighters like coming to the church.
Look at his face. He's like,
Oh,
it's kind of like Mr. Bill.
and I'm
Mr.
thinking,
Bill.
I could have said to the young girl who did this, "Wrong. This is wrong." But I started thinking, what if the church was so on fire that firefighters thought we were really on fire?
Yeah. And then it was dangerous.
Instead
Then when
of
they
driving
got there,
by
they-
going, "Oh, nothing's going on there."
That's a boring place. We'll just
There's
go get a donut.
nothing. Yeah.
Oh, that's cops, not firefighters.
Yeah, firefighters. I'm sure they eat donuts too, don't you think? Here's one. It's a birthday party, and
Okay.
she invited her cat.
Norman?
I don't know I don't know malnormal. Okay. I don't know.
Well, I guess you want to invite.
No, that was an
that's
adult.
quite good because it's got the tongues. The tongues of.
That was done by an adult.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
So they knew the tongues of fire thing.
Yes.
But that always confused me as a kid. The tongues of fire, because their
it's all
tongues were
creepy.
on fire because their tongues were on fire because they were talking in those crazy languages and stuff. But in the picture in the children's Bible, it was up over their
Yeah, it's like
head.
burning their hair.
Yeah, and the one that had that was one of those crazy ghosts in in the Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Remember, and it had like a horn on its head. Well, who wears a horn on their head? Like,
Well, who wants a fire on their head or on their tongue? It's just a creepy little
It is so creepy.
image for kids. And I've tried really hard to make
And
it fun.
grown-ups.
So in the Bible, they come from places
over.
like Pamphylia or I don't know how
Phrygia.
Phrygia.
Yeah.
All these really weird sounding countries.
we're in a church.
So
You'd think we could grab a Bible.
I know we
and
could,
but,
but-
you get it. A lot of places that
they were coming from
strange sounding names.
Yes. And so we were thinking about, we were thinking about the people here that come in our building, and some come from
Faraway
Brooklyn,
places
and England and
with
Texas and
strange
Florida
sounding names.
and
Yeah.
Germany and Ohio. So all these people came into a place like this.
Ohio.
And,
Ohio. Ohio
and-
is the weirdest sounding of those. Ohio.
Ohio.
Ohio. Texas is funny too.
Texas.
Texas.
You know what it means.
No, what does it mean?
It's based on the Native American word Tejas,
Tejas.
which means friendly.
What? And that's true. It's a really friendly
It's the
place.
motto of Texas is
We
the
be
friendly,
Tejas.
the friendly state.
Oh, well, that's nice. Isn't
It is nice. We won't talk about the
Well,
current politicians that are not
but
making it a
in
friendly
Pennsylvania,
place. but-
their license plate used to say "You have a friend" in Pennsylvania, but was "friend" with a capital F. Get it, Quakers? You have a friend in Pennsylvania. That was in like the 80s, but I don't think they have that anymore.
So we have another one here that says, "Hi, hello." They're all coming in together.
Yeah, they must be from Tejas.
And,
They're from Tejas.
and then people holding hands.
Oh, they look like the star people from that Hayao Miyazaki film, Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh.
Remember the star people that came and like danced in a circle?
So we're gonna hang these up out in the hallway.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make like a
No,
like a
not in
banner.
here. They're doing other stuff.
Okay.
It'll happen in here. These are things we're gonna put out in the hallway.
Nice.
On
Are you gonna
on
have
Pentecost
some sort
Sunday.
of fan type of apparatus?
Yeah,
because
they're
of
going to
the
be
wind
hanging
and
like
the fire?
just little. You
Right.
know, when the doors open up, wind will blow in, and they'll go.
Yeah.
They'll go like this.
One of these years, if I'm preaching at Pentecost, I kind
Here,
of want to
I'll do
have.
Pentecost while you talk.
I kind of want to have like one of those rock and roll
Here,
big
yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like what they did in
that's
it.
the
It's like a little
tongue.
tongue of fire while
fire.
you talk.
Oh wow, nice, cool.
Yeah, like the who is she?
You're getting like me,
Diana Ross.
Dan Rose.
She always had
here's
the
the-
hair.
Yeah, the wind machine. The wind machine.
Yeah. So you want to make one?
Sure. Oh, we're gonna make it.
Yeah, we have
Yay.
fabric pins, and
Okay.
you can help tell the Pentecost story. And
Pentecost?
ask
Pentecost.
Pentecost.
So Pentecostal is not the tradition that we are,
No.
but it has to do with this because
is
they
kinda-
speak in tongues,
Yes.
but not tongues of flame.
Yeah. I said no like that because we're like the opposite of Pentecostal.
I don't think so. I think we are
Historically,
much,
we have been.
Historically, we haven't, but I think we're much more spirit-led than we were before.
Oh, I agree with that. We're still pretty quiet people. Well,
Coming
some
from
of
one
us.
of the least quiet.
Are you saying I'm not quiet?
No, you have your moments.
I'll be quiet. I don't know.
As
what I'm
we're
doing.
drawing.
Okay. And so Pentecost is also kind of, we say it's the birthday of the church.
Right.
And
Which, yeah. Which is sort of interesting because remember, Jesus like breathed on them that very first night after he rose and breathed peace on them and the Spirit.
yeah.
So there was that. But I guess that's not the church per se. That's just on his friends. The church are the gathered from all.
Yeah,
all
I think
over.
it's just this moment where people gathered. And
And it
I
blew
guess
them
that
away.
gathering is what kind of started this movement where we gather.
We
And,
gather together.
and I'm mostly glad that we gather. Some days it's really worth gathering.
And others.
I'll tell you, I saw a video on YouTube, not on Facebook today. It was in a synagogue. It was what are they called? The council. You know, we have a session in the Presbyterian Church. I don't know what they have, but they have a leadership, a council that makes decisions in the synagogue. And the little video follows these two women who have this brochure that they need to present or have available for people when they show up to the temple for worship. And but they don't know where to put it. And they said, wouldn't it be nice if we had a little table right here? Well, we'll take that request to the council. We have a meeting coming up. And they explain why they need a table, and several people don't think they need a little table. Now, we're talking about a little table that costs $27 at the most. Or you could find a little table that someone gave it to you.
Right.
But as they do, we do in the church often, we make these little bitty decisions into these complicated messes. So the video keeps going on, and they go, you go ask so-and-so and see if they'll give us a table.
And this is like a little mini movie?
Yes,
Okay.
and then, so the woman comes back to the next month's meeting, and they say, did you ask so-and-so for the table? And he goes, I thought about it, and I just don't want a table, and I'm not going to ask. And so it keeps going on, and then they end up hiring a consultant that comes in to tell them why they need a table and how you can go about getting a table. And they end up spending $700 on the consultant, and it goes on and on and on. And those are the moments where you go, why did we gather?
Well, honestly, being in community is so much harder than just living by yourself.
It is very hard.
Whether it's in a family or whether it's
Yes.
at work or in your neighborhood. I mean, being a part of it, there's going to be problems that
There
have
are
to be
always
resolved. I'm done.
problems. Nice. Spirits.
Spirit.
The spirits.
And it is the sort of part of the church where the mystery of the Spirit is sort of recognized a wee bit.
A
I
wee
would
bit.
say.
So
Mr. Microphone.
what now, Jeannie? We're getting ready for
We're getting ready
Pentecost.
for Pentecost. We're thinking seriously about how we welcome people, how the Holy Spirit welcomes people. which is in every way.
Welcome, just the way you are.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome, even though this is your place. Did that make any sense? I don't know.
Well, sometimes even when it's your own place, you
Don't make
kind
me
of
feel like
feel
fit in. Yeah.
out of place.
Cool. Well, this is
So
good.
that happens.
So, podcast or YouTube, either one. We are Murmuration.
Murmuration.
Murmuration, and we're talking about those parts in which the church is calling us to be the church wherever we are, and come together and talk about it.
I just realized we're sitting in chairs that are, it's sort of like at
Too
the
low?
table, it's a little too low, and the table's a little high.
Yeah, it's funny.
But you don't drop
things.
things on your shirt. You
That's
can
true.
eat. Anyway,
It'd be weird eating. It'd be like being a kid eating.
well, that's pretty appropriate, don't
That
you
maybe
think?
is. That maybe is. Puts us all in a place of
Humility.
humility. Yeah, awesome. You guys have a great week and enjoy the rest of the Easter season. It's not just a day, it's a season.
It's almost over.
It is. We're getting ready for Pentecost.
Thanks for being with us.
Yep. Love you to bits.
Bye.
Bye.